Hello, students and scholars of the second grade. My name is Ms. Pagan. I am a remote teacher, and I'm also a virtual content specialist. And I'm excited to share with you a section of this lesson. We will be completing an adapted Explore using the Google Jamboard. Okay, students, so you have been completing the unit of problem solving with categorical data. So you have been placing data or information into categories or groups. Today is Module 7A, Day 3, and the title is Draw and Label a Bar Graph to represent data. Relate the count scale to the number line. And our title today, or rather our focus question, is how can you draw and label a bar graph to represent data? So today we will be using the Google Jamboard to create or complete a bar graph to show the data that we are using in this module on animal classification. Today, students, you are going to be using these sticky notes as to-do steps to help you to complete a bar graph. So anytime you see the sticky notes, these will help you to know the steps to take to complete a bar graph. Let's begin. In this Explore section, you will see the directions. Complete the bar graph using data provided in the table. Use the fill color on the grid to represent each animal. Complete all the labels. Then answer the questions about the data on the next slide. So in this adapted Explore section, we are going to complete a bar graph using data. We're going to fill all the colors using the paint tool of the Google Jamboard. Complete all the labels and a number scale. And then finally, we'll answer the questions about the data on the next slide. So students, in order to complete a bar graph, I've placed some to-do steps in sticky notes on the top section of this page. To complete a bar graph, step 1, we write the title. Step 2, we label each category. Step 3, we complete the scale. Step 4, we shade each bar to show data. Let's begin using the animal classification data table. You will notice that there is a title to this data table, Animal Classification. There are also 4 categories: birds, fish, mammals, and reptiles. And finally, there is a number or quantity for each category. For birds, we see 6. For fish, there is 5 animals. For mammals, 11. And for reptiles, 3. We will use all the data in this data table and the steps of our to-do steps to complete a bar graph. Step 1, write the title. I noticed the title is Animal Classification. So I'm going to use the Google Jamboard tool of a text box. Click on the text box and click on the title section of this bar graph and write Animal Classification. Students, you may pause this video, write the title, and return when you are ready and press play. So I have written, and I hope that you also have written, the title, Animal Classification. So this is the title of our bar graph, which is also the title in our data table. Now students, step 1 was write the title. Step 2 is label each category. So now you are going to label each category that is present here using the categories in the data table. You may pause the video and press play when you have written each category. All right, students and scholars, we are going to continue the categories or the labeling here. We have birds, fish, and I'm using the text box, again, of the Google Jamboard. Mammals and reptiles. Step 1, write the title. Step 2, label each category. Step 3, complete the scale. Now, students, we are going to complete the number scale that you notice that is at the bottom of this bar graph. I'd like to use a pen. So I'm going to click on the first tool in Google Jamboard and click on a pen so that I can label the bar graph scale. I'll start from 0 and I'll go up one number in each label. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Excellent. Now, students, you may pause the video at any time if you need any extra work time or thinking time as we complete this bar graph. Students, we have now completed step 1, write the title. Step 2, label each category. Step 3, complete the scale. Now we're going into our final step, step 4, shade each bar to show data. I noticed that for birds, in the data table, there are 6 animals. I'm going to use the first Google Jamboard tool, open this window, and go to the last tool, which is a paint tool. This will allow me to shade the bar to complete each bar for each animal and show the data that connects to the data table. Here's birds. I noticed there are 6 animals. So I'll go to birds, and I will start at 0 all the way to 6. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to close out this bar and then shade. You will see that for birds, there are 6 animals. Now I'm going to continue with fish. According to the data table, there are 5 animals. I'll choose the paint tool and choose a different color for fish. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'll close out this bar and then shade. You will notice that for fish, there are 5 animals. Now I'll go to mammals. There are 11 animals in the data table, so I'll choose a different color, and I'll start at 0 for mammals and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. I'll close out this bar graph, this bar, and then I'll shade. Ooh, got a little messy there. Gonna use my eraser tool and clean up my bar. And in the case that you have any issues, your eraser tool is right below your paint tool. Finally, students, I noticed that for reptiles, there are 3 animals. So I'll choose a final color, and I'll start at 0, 1, 2, and 3. I'll close out this bar, and then I'll shade. Students, if you need extra time to complete your bar graph according to these steps, you may pause the video for work time and return to the video when you are ready to answer the questions on the next slide. Now, students, we have completed the 4 steps to complete a bar graph using the data in the data table. Now you'll go on to the final section of this Explore or Adapted Explore and answer these questions. Use the bar graph you created and the table on the previous slide to answer the questions below. How many more animals are birds than reptiles? How many more birds and mammals are there than fish and reptiles? How many fewer animals are reptiles and fish than mammals? Students, you are now going to use the data from the bar graph to complete these three questions. After you have completed these three questions, you will now create your own comparison question based on the data. You'll write your question here and then write your answer below. Students, feel free to also complete the Google form that you may be given by your teacher instead of this Explore page and select the correct answers for each question. Again, this is Ms. Pagan, and today our focus question was how can you draw and label a bar graph to represent data?